Meet me. Welcome back, boys, to another set of hero previews. We just got news about them, so today we're going to talk about Lucy and Designer Lilibet. We're going to focus on her because Lucy, as you can see here, is a 3-star hero. And as a general rule of thumb, I know I'm going to get some hate for this, but 3-star heroes without a specialty change are always going to be ass because their base stats are terrible, and people are going to be like, I use so and so. It doesn't matter. If you go to high end RTA, no one is using non SC 3 stars. Maybe like one out of every 200 matches in a very situational case. They'll pick one, but in general, it's not done. So just safely assume any new 3-star hero is going to suck until they have specialty changes. But, anyways, let's go ahead and see her. So let's look at her base stats. As you could see, pretty horrible. And 100 speed, so pretty slow too. Has effectiveness for some reason, so she must have some debuffs. So let's take a look at her skills. Skill 3, Paper Barrier. Uses many sheets of paper to grant a barrier to all allies for 2 turns before decreasing debuff durations by 1 turn. So it doesn't even heal, so just a barrier and a 1-turn reduction on debuffs. Let's look at the animation. The animation's pretty hilarious. Look how horrible this barrier is. Why is it so small? Okay, we're just going to say that skill is ass. Okay. Paper Whirlwind attacks all enemies with an 85%, 100% chance to restrict and decrease speed for 2 turns. So the second hero ever to have restrict and decrease speed on the same skill, or I think have restrict at all. So let's take a look at this bad boy. Looks equally underwhelming. So I guess that's kind of cool, a Soul Weaver that can restrict, but again, restrict doesn't do anything against teams without a CR push. Decreased speed is always very strong, however, but again, kind of weird. S1 throws paper to attack the enemy, again, has a chance to restrict, so 50% chance to restrict, which against a lot of teams is going to end up being completely useless. And against things with a lot of effect resist, it won't even land. So I think we could stop talking about this hero. It's going to be horrible. It's horrible and useless, but she is a waifu, so, and she's a 3-star, so we'll all get her. But if you're thinking, oh, should I invest a bunch of resources into this? I think her terrible skills say it all. Just ignore her. Oh, she has an artifact. Artifact Temperance. After using a basic skill, blah, blah. Okay, so this is basically like the Knight artifact that gives you basically FCC's passive. I guess anyone can use it. It doesn't say Soul Weaver specific or anything. This isn't terrible. This is actually a decent artifact, I guess. But the thing is, there are class-specific artifacts for almost every class that are going to be better than this. If you're a knight, just use the knight version. It also has the built-in defense. I don't think Soul Weavers would actually ever want to use this. If you have like a 30, or that's not realistic, like a 20k HP Soul Weaver, it'll give 2k barriers every turn. That's pretty good, but do you really want like that instead of Rod or Idle Shear or something like that? Probably not. So that's it about Lucy. She's ass. Let's move on to the next one. And since she's DML5, I like to watch the intros. Let's do that together. Oh man, the animation is awesome there. The ending's kind of underwhelming. What is this cat thing? I don't think regular Lilibet chills with a cat. Her design's pretty chill. I don't really think there's much more to say about that. Let's go to her stats. So, what's another Cancer Warrior? I don't know. Leave it in the comments below. Someone always corrects me on that, so I'm not even going to bother trying. But as you could see, blah, 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 from first glance, very high base HP, pretty good defense. So, Warrior, definitely going to be like a tanky-ish hero. So let's take a look at her abilities. So they start off with her skill 2, which probably means it's the most important skill in her kit. When an enemy turn ends, gains 5 fighting spirit for each debuff inflicted on an ally. Start the battle with 30 fighting spirit, and it's highlighted, so it means these molas apply to that. So she could start with 50 fighting spirit. When the fighter's fighting spirit is full at the end of somebody's turn, no, that's pretty crazy. Consumes all fighting spirit to dispel all debuffs from the caster and increase combat readiness by 40%. Now that sounds crazy. Let's see it in practice. Oh, all right. So she's getting debuffed. She doesn't have full fighting spirit. Tenebria goes. She can't. They put on counter set. Now she uses all her fighting spirit. You saw that, and she turn cut. And now I guess she'd do whatever it is she does. So, this move sounds pretty. Let's go over all her skills first before we discuss. So S3, decrease debuff durations of all allies by 2 turns, so essentially a full cleanse. There are very few debuffs in this game that last longer than 2 turns. Dizzy is one of them, but almost all debuffs are 2 turns, so it's basically a full cleanse. Attacks all enemies, increases their skill cooldown by 1 turn. Damage dealt increases proportional to defense, so it's like Fighter Maya, so you can build her very tanky and it'll help her damage. We already saw this, but let's watch it again to get a sense of the damage. So here we have the thing where she cuts, and now she's going to use her S3. Okay, let's look at the damage. Pretty terrible, pretty terrible. Hit for, there's no Aureus on this team, and hit the Fabria for 3614. Obviously, we don't know the stats on this Lilibet, and I don't think she's going to be built to be pure damage based on her kit, but just something to note. Who knows? Maybe this is just built terribly. Her S1 attacks the enemy with the scissors. The animation's probably the same as green Lilibet, with a maximum chance of 75% to silence for 1 turn. Again, damage dealt increases proportional to defense. Let's take a look. Ooh, wait, that hit pretty hard. So the multis, I'm assuming this is the same Lilibet, because it's the same team. So the multi on the S3 must be bad, or this Fabria has insanely high defense, which would be unusual, because a 6.6k hit, that's pretty solid. All right, so is there an artifact or anything? No, because she's an ML. Okay, so let's talk about ML Lilibet and what I think about her. I think she's freaking crazy. I think she's really good against control teams, and not even control teams, just any kind of debuff team, because I think I'm definitely going to go for it. I'm kind of upset because I was hoping it would be terrible, to be honest, because I don't want to buy Mystic packs, but maybe I will. I mean, I do have the YouTube money, but the thing is, when like I'm seeing a lot of like Briar Witch Asseria nowadays, like one thing I hate dealing with the way I draft is Basar, but I usually just bank on banning it. But then if they do something like take Basar and Briar Witch, kind of makes it a nightmare, and I need more anti-cleanse options other than just Lilius. And this is really great because the problem with Lilius is something like Cerise Fabria. They'll just strip her immunity and then lock her down and she can't cleanse, right? But Designer Lilibet, you cannot stop her because she full cleanses herself. Now, is it true that it's the end of anybody's turn, or is it the enemy? So here it says enemy's turn, but the wording here isn't clear because this thing says somebody's turn. So I don't know if you get the fighting spirit on both your turns and the enemy turns, but basically it means that if you have any debuffs on your team at all, you are going to be cleansing it very quickly. Now, granted, that doesn't always help your team because this thing is a 4-turn cooldown, so don't think that you can make your team immune to debuffs because you can't. You can cleanse once and you're going to be turn cutting a lot, but you can only use this cleanse for your team once every 4 turns. On the flip side of that, because this CR push is so massive, 40% is huge. 4 turns might feel a lot faster than it is because she's going to be turn cycling so fast that maybe Designer Lilibet takes 2 or 3 turns by the time the enemy team gets 1, in which case this cooldown will start to feel really short. Damage-wise, we'll have to wait for multis, but it doesn't look too good. But again, she's defense scaling, so my assumption is she'll be very tanky, and that'll make up for it. It'd be unfair if she was tanky and did crazy damage at the same time while also being completely immune to debuffs, right? So let's take a look at this. So let's use Dizzy as an example. Basically, if it's something like Dizzy, let's do Cerise. So let's say Cerise lands 8 debuffs. So 8 times 5 is 40. You start with 50 fighting spirit. So at the end of Cerise's turn, you're already going to be almost maxed out. And then if you have Fabria or something, take a turn. Actually, doesn't matter. Anyone takes a turn because it's the end of anybody's turn. You'll immediately be cleansed, and then you could cleanse your whole team. So this is pretty crazy. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of her against control comps, like the kind of people who like to play like pseudo bruiser control comps with like Atywin and Cerise, and they just keep trying to stun you over and over. Maybe even Ravi with her stuns. I think Designer Lilibet is going to be a welcome addition to everyone's kit. Now, if you don't like PvP, just pass on her because I don't think she'll be useful for people who don't care about PvP. But that's been the same with like every new hero nowadays. Like all the new heroes are crafted around PvP. And even from the example, I think they specifically made this hero to deal with Cerise Fabria, which is on like every Guild Wars defense nowadays, including mine, because it's toxic. But yeah, honestly, I'm pretty excited about this hero. Not so much from a damage perspective, and I don't think you'll want to pick her in every single draft. So inevitably, people are going to be asking me like, "Oh, well, I really wanted FCC. Should I wait for this hero?" I would say stick with FCC. FCC is just good everywhere. This hero is only good in PvP, and even then, only in specific situations if they're drafting a bunch of control people. With that said, things like Atywin, Fabria, these are all very common. Cerise are all very common things to run into in RTA. So this is definitely something you might want to pick up. If you have Holiday Yafine built, I mean, she kind of works similarly, except she doesn't have that self cleanse. But you could try to RNG that evasion for the first one at least if you build her fast. But in general, I think Designer Lilibet is probably going to be one of the strongest heroes in the game against control comps. If they don't have any control on the team, then it's probably a wasted pick to take her. But I think she might be a very dangerous last pick. So, anyways, that's my first impression of Designer Lilibet. Let me know your thoughts if you disagree or anything. I'll probably try for her. I don't know if I want to whale for her. But hey, if I have to, I have to. I'll use that YouTube money so I can keep making content for you guys revolving around new heroes. So, anyways, thanks for watching. Best of luck to you guys who choose to pull for this. Until next time, peace out, boys.